In 2022, a pastor handed me a book that would go on to change my life forever, and I'm pretty sure without it, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. It was literally the darkest part of my life. Everything was falling apart. My faith, my sense of who I was, all of it. I walked into my pastor's office that day with nothing left, and I ended up walking out of his office with this book, Night Driving by Chad Bird. But here's what got me. The guy who wrote this wasn't some perfect man of faith. He was a pastor who lost absolutely everything because of his own failures. And somehow, some reason that day, that's exactly what I needed to hear and read. Hey guys, welcome to the channel, Grumpa Mike Books. Today I want to touch on something a little different than regular movie adaptation books and all that. Something that is really personal to me, a book that, like I said, changed the course of my life. Chad Bird, personal friend of my pastor. When you read the book, he was a respected pastor. He was a professor in a seminary, and by his own fault, his own issues, his own infidelity, which is all here in the book, he lost everything. His job, his wife, his family, everything. So in a nutshell, what happened is he ended up driving trucks across the Texas Panhandle at night. And by doing so, this gave him a lot of time to think, a lot of time to get into his own heads about what he had done and what was going on and the rights and the wrongs, and was God still there for him, and talking to God and cursing at God and everything up and down. Just come to terms with his own self and his own mind. I'll let him tell his own story in the book. I'll let you, link down in the description down below if you want to pick up the book. I would highly suggest, if you're ever depressed, if you're ever sad, pick up the book. I will let him tell his own story. It's not for me to tell. To me, if a man with this stature, with this being so close to God, was able to have faults and overcome them, then any of us could. God would still love us. I've read this book, I count how many times. There's one part in the book that I do want to read to you because it always blows me away when I read it. But the headlines are as follows. Brother murders brother in a fit of jealous rage. Spiritual leader discovered drunk and naked at his home. Husband's lie placed wife in danger with sexual assault. Militants kidnap family during a raid. Wife lets the husband father a child with the maid. Gang of men attempt to rape a man's guests. $2 impregnated by a drunk father, basically. Twin brothers deceive blind father and steal from the absent brother. Man in a polygamous household faces constant family strife. Mass slaughter preempted by brothers to avenge sister's rape. Eldest son sleeps with his father's lover. Jealous brother sells younger brother into slavery. Ripped from today's headlines, right? Open up any, browser or actual newspaper and you can read those headlines. All those headlines are from book 1 of the Bible. All those stories. Blows me away. It's important to realize that stories of pain and failure are in us all around us, but they have been with us from the dawn of humanity. They are the stories written throughout our scripture. From the opening of the book of the Bible, we come across stories that might be written in today's headlines. These were only a sampling from Genesis. Amazing. So yeah, when I read this book, it totally changed my whole thought process at the time. Where was I back in 2022? In a nutshell, I was in a very, very dark place. I was fed up with my job and actually had just left it. I had severe marriage issues that I was done with it. And I drifted completely away from God. I drifted completely away from myself. And it got to the point where I was sitting in a parking lot with all the means to do something that nobody should ever have to do. And yeah, sorry. Nobody should ever get so low, so dark within themselves that they ever want to not see tomorrow. Let's put it that way. And I was there. I was 80% of the way there. And when I got to the point that I was doing what I was doing, visions flashed in my head of my kids, my grandkids, and everything, and I couldn't do it. I burst into tears. I drove across town to my church, to my pastor's office. He took me in right away and sat down and prayed for me, and we talked and we discussed everything. And, it went from talking about me to sports talk and everything else, just to get me out of my mindset. And when it got to time that I was done, he wasn't rushing me out of the office. It was just, he sat there and listened to everything I had to say. There was no time. There was no agenda. I don't know if he had appointments or what was going on. He was there for me. And I'm trying not to get emotional about it. But when I decided that it was time that I left and I was feeling better, I noticed they had a bunch of books over on a bookcase. And I asked if he had anything that, might resonate with me that, I could go home and read just to get my head out of where I was. And he said, yeah, a good friend of his had wrote a book and I'd probably like it. His good friend, Chad Bird, had wrote this book. So my pastor handed me this book. I went home that afternoon. I think it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And by that night I had read, it's a thin book. I had read through the entire book. And over the course of the next week, I read the book again. And then I went on Amazon and I bought it myself. And since then, I've probably read it once a year. Such a good book. Such a good book. It grounds you. It makes you feel like you are not alone. If people that are this close to God could screw up their lives, not have their lives screwed up, but screw up their own lives themselves. Chad Bird was in full control of his life that he screwed up. And if he could screw up his life so bad and still be forgiven and still be guided to where he is today, where he's successful and has a great life and a great family, completely 180 turn, then it's possible for all of us. You may not be religious. That's fine. Yes, this book is about religion, but I would highly suggest if you're ever depressed, if you're upset, or, you have doubts about yourself or life or anything, pick up the book, read it. Maybe something will resonate with you, because it did, and it still does to this day with me. Okay, so yeah, that is why this book means so much to me. And like I said, if you're sad, if you're depressed, whatever the case, this book's not preachy. Yes, it touches on biblical things, but it's not preachy. It's not telling you to, run to God or whatever. It resonates inside of me, and I'm sure it would do the same thing for you. And look, I'm not sitting here trying to tell you I got everything figured out in life over one simple book, because I don't. But I am standing here, or in this case, I am sitting here. And that's because of my pastor and because of this book. And to think that one person, Chad Bird, who is honest enough to open up his life and his story to be judged by everybody else, to throw his flaws out there for us, could change a life. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that most people, if they, they start a YouTube channel or they write a book or they do a podcast or a TV show, or if it changes one person's life, if one person gets enjoyment out of it or anything. Well, I don't know if Chad Bird will ever see this video, but you wrote a book that changed one person's life in the least, and that's me. And I will be forever grateful for that. And if you happen to be in a dark place right now, you don't have to be alone. You don't have to be alone. I would highly suggest read the book. Read the book. I have zero apologies for recommending this and zero apologies about talking about God and religion right now on the channel, because this book changed my life and it could change yours too. And if you're going through something right now, don't care what it is, job, work, home, personal demons, whatever it is, do me a favor and drop a period down in the comments. You are not alone. You are not alone. There are people out there that don't even know you, that love you, and want the best for you. I'm one of them. I love you guys very much, and I don't know any of you. But I know the world deserves you, and you need to be in the world. So, if you're going through crap right now, hit a period. Put a period down in the comments. Alright? I'm going to get out of here, go collect myself, and try to think about what I want to talk about in the next video. I love you guys, and I always will. Thank you guys for stopping by, and thank you for tolerating this video with me. Alright? I love you guys. Take care. Bye.